Fair enough. Let's see where the world takes us. So, mental. We got on today. Something that I definitely it's been on my mind specifically, obviously, because of the nature of the work that I do, but also
too much is on your mind, bro. What's going on?
But this is something I thought we were definitely going to tackle for a minute. But this is definitely about the idea of, not the idea, but the prevalence of youth violence in the UK, specifically in London at the moment. To date, we have had 92 homicides.
This year alone?
Yes, in London this year. I mean, that's astronomical amounts. Just 2 days ago, I think there was a case of, three shooting. Shooting. 3 people definitely were involved in the shooting.
Yeah, I think I heard it by a station or something.
Yep. And then the day before that, I think there was like a stabbing as well. And it's just been consistent, So for me, it's definitely something that I wanted to kind of talk about, but also to break that down into subcategories about the idea that there's this narrative out there that is blaming the rise in youth violence to drill music, which is
rolling my eyes, by the way.
Which is a subsidiary of hip hop and grime.
Yeah.
Originated from Chicago, which is, a particular south side of Chicago, which is prevalent for its murder rates. So the music was a reflection of the realities that they had there. And the second part of that conversation is the conversation around the social use of drugs. Can we disassociate drill music, the social drug usage, from the rise in youth violence in the UK and in London?
We can associate social drug taking to the youth violence, but not the drill music.
Okay.
End.
That's it. That's a wrap, folks. Right. So let's chop that up. Let's break it down into the micro details of it. So with drill music, we already gave context as to what drill music is and how that then got adopted to the UK sorts of realities because it originated from Chicago and the realities within Chicago. And that got adopted because obviously there was a similarity in the conditions. And then young people or the creators of drill music started to speak about their truths. Yeah. But within that, have you heard drill music? Have you heard drill tracks? Yeah. What would you say is the general vibe and energy and lyrics that you hear in drill music?
Like, I grew up on hip hop. There's nothing in drill music that I've not heard Jay say or Scarface say. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's such a typical human thing, right? That instead of dealing with the sickness, we deal with the symptom. And we think the symptom is the sickness. It's almost like me going, it's almost like you having a brain tumor, me going, oh, you know what? It's just a headache. I'll give you a painkiller for your headache. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to wish that on you, by the way. But that is, for me, that is such a typical human response. It always has to be the music, right?
Right.
Growing up, it was hip hop. And it's never is the socioeconomic factors that's going on. It's never is, and you brought something.
Where the parents at? Where the parents at?
Like Emery said,
exactly.
It's never what is actually going on in society. Oh yeah, it has to be the music. And you made a very great point, which is the how did you word it? The social drug taking. It's you go into all these classes, right? You go into all these
tiers of society,
and you got all these social drug taking, and for them that's cool, right? But someone has to supply that drug, right? But yet it feels like they remove from the problem. If you do not have a user, the supply is going to go away.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that, right? You could ship tons of coke. If no one is buying them, that tons of coke becomes just mere powder, right?
Right.
Or you might invent a new uses for coke. So for me, that is a huge correlation because you need demand for supply. It's the first rule of commerce, right? Supply and demand. It's very, very important. So anyone that is socially using drugs, that do not see the correlation with what they're doing and the violence and that's going on around them, one is living in denial, or two, just have no sense in their head.
Right. I mean, I think it's really interesting because I think we need to kind of deconstruct both things entirely. Because are you saying drill music has there's no accountability within that to say that also has any impact on the rise of the youth violence completely? So this is a completely fantastical sort of leap that people are trying to make.
It isn't a leap.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like we said earlier on, representation is important. So, but you have to understand, these kids, and that's why I keep going back to the real illness. These kids, at the end of the day, I can always keep harping on, believe it or not, are like authors. So these drill artists, they're like authors. And what do authors write about? They write about the things that they associate themselves with, the things that they see when they look outside their windows, or maybe the things that they even have practiced in. So if
they imagine.
Yeah. So if these are the things that they see, what is that telling us? First, it's telling us that they live in places that are not socially equipped with the right infrastructures for a kid to be living in the first place. So these are the things that they see when they look outside their windows. And so what? They will write about this. I'm never going to say you do not have kids that will listen to these things and think this is how we live and then go about enacting that. Of course there are. But the most important thing is, what are the causes? Because if a kid is living in the home where you've got two parents have got a decent enough job, live in a good community that's got good infrastructures, got good schools, good extracurriculum activities that goes on in the schools, most likely these kids will not resolve to that. There's a huge correlation between the music and also the kids that are involved in where they live and where they come from. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, the music plays a part, but the music is also a symptom of the real
Absolutely,
illness.
I agree.
And I cannot say, let's disregard a symptom, because no, you also have to treat the symptoms, of course.
Absolutely.
But we need to get to the root of it.
Absolutely. I think the thing is, drill music is like a white smoke, right? You know, and obviously it's an easy target from
Very knee-jerk
from
reaction,
the infrastructure, the criminal justice system.
Remember, it used to be grime. It used to be grime back then. It used to be garage.
Exactly. To latch onto something that symptomatically expresses the inequalities and the treacherous conditions that a lot of these young people and people who get involved in the rising violence in London are living in. So instead of looking at, okay, so this is a clear evidence of why the cut in youth funding, budgets for youth centers, and all other extracurricular activities that have been available or probably haven't been in particular boroughs are causing. They decide, well, actually, we need to stop this music. We need to stop this representation of the frustrations that are happening. That's one side of it. And I think that conversation, you know, is one that is definitely a loaded one, because that's an escapism for these establishments to say, you know what, we don't want to focus on the fact that we've cut the funding. We just want to focus on the fact that actually these kids are creating this music that's absolutely talking about killing each other.
And they're killing. So that it has to be the music.
Right.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, with everything that I talk about, we need to talk about accountability. You know, because yes, there are these conditions that are causing for these young people to live in these situations that provoke this particular feeling and rivalry within gangs and just ops and, you know, as they will call it, and these opposing sorts of, you know, groups of people that live in the neighborhood or whatnot. But within that, we can also interrogate that. Because the music, as you know, love music completely. But as I get older, I'm completely aware of the impact music has on my soul. I am completely aware of what I take in and how that absolutely affects the way that I project myself. So with that as a context, hearing drill music, I don't listen to drill music as a person because that fills me with a lot of negative energy.
Really?
Absolutely.
See, music always takes me to one place. I've never listened to music and gone, maybe I'm a very unique human being, which I like to think I am, but no, I'm not. But yeah, music is never like I listen to music and take it for what it. I've always listened to music and taken it for what it was. But when you say accountability, if we go into the root source of accountability, right? Then why are we blaming the music? Why are we not being accountable as an individual listening to that music?
Absolutely, both are tied.
So then music really shouldn't be blamed then. Do you know what I mean?
Wait.
If we're being ultimately truly accountable, then it should never be about the music. It should be about the individual per individual. Listen to that music. Everyone needs to be accountable for themselves.
But that's the problem, because the fact that they create the music, it's almost like a lot of drill music that I've listened to, it's almost a directional call out for a particular group of people saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm doing to you, this is what's happening. So,
but that's hip hop in the first place. It's always
it stems from that. But the point is, that's why there's a lot of hip hop I don't listen to. So that can never be a blanket reason to just accept things happening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's
that's hip hop. That has been hip hop.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why I've become much more astute to what I listen to.
Yeah.
I don't listen to Chief Keef as much as people can say he's really good.
Chief Keef.
Yeah, but I'm saying that there is a reason why, because we have to look at the power the music does have.
Music has power, but you also keep saying accountability.
Yeah, but the point is, that's
so
the
why
problem.
are you blaming the person for making the song?
Because music has its own energy. There's a reason why when you listen to a song at 140 BPM versus when you listen to slow music. Yeah. That's why reason people have sex to slow music and people don't have sex to 140. You know what I mean? So you cannot disassociate the power that the energy.
I completely I agree with you.
Right. So with that being the premise, but understanding that there's a subconscious,
though.
Of course it is, because there's a subconscious impact
the
music has, even though you consciously don't want to think so.
Yeah.
So therefore, just from a societal perspective and from someone who works with young people perspective, right? There is no way I wouldn't ask a young person about the reason behind why these are the lyrics and these are the kind of negative energy they want to put on a song. There's no reason why I wouldn't interrogate him to understand, or her, why they feel that way. But at the same time,
do you want to interrogate Jay when he came out with Reasonable, but some of the negative energies that he pulled on the song?
If I knew Jay, yes.
Would you?
Of course.
Really? You listen to Reasonable that now? Do you still think it's a good body of work?
But why you're conflating two things?
No. I'm just asking you a simple question.
Some of the songs that I loved, when I still listen to them now, I think they're great.
But that's a great body of work?
Of course it is a good body of work.
That's all I wanted to know.
How is that?
Because my whole point is
being good and being good for you is completely different thing.
Because my whole point is, when as humans we can be very hypocritical, and the reason why I say that is, I'm not saying that music does not give off a vibe. That's not what I'm saying. It gives off a vibe,
right?
And that's very, very important. And it gives a certain energy. But once again, and we cannot disassociate ourselves from that.
Right.
Very important. But you hit one key note on the head as well. How about accountability?
Yes.
And so, why are we blaming?
Blame is different from accountability.
Yeah.
Accountability.
So why are we not taking accountability of
everybody
ourselves?
has to.
Yeah.
But we also have to talk about the people who are making the music too.
Yeah, but the people who are making the music, that's what they see. What do you want them to write about?
So the fact that the conditions that they live in reflect that.
Yeah.
And therefore, they create music. Again, I speak about just the songs that I've listened to, where people are spewing,
that's
basically
that's
basically telling people what they're gonna do to them and their grandmother, and showing, in some cases, showing weapons in this video. So because that's their reality, they shouldn't be held accountable for how they're representing themselves and actually the harm that obviously inevitably comes to them from that. So because that's their reality, they shouldn't be accountable for it.
it's a tricky one with art, right? So, at one point, I completely get what you're saying because everything, the pen is mightier than the sword, they said, right? So everything that comes out of our mouth has a reaction. So at one part, I recognize that, but the other part as well, it's tough to tell a person how to create their art. That's also so. So with that standpoint, it will be like me once again, I keep coming back to, because all that's happening now, it's not something that's never happened before. This is literally, we go through a cycle where a new genre of music, it used to be punk, believe it or not. Like in, I don't know how long ago, like 60s or whatever it was. It used to be punk. It used to be hip hop. It used to be, do you know what I mean? Through time, a new genre comes out and it's to be blamed for the ill wills of that generation. And we seem to turn a blind eye to the real causes. With what you say, you're not turning a blind eye to the real causes. But so on one part, I get that, you know what? Whatever we say holds water to someone, somewhere. But if you are someone that thousands of people listen to, obviously what you're saying holds more water to a lot of people, right? So on one part, yeah. But also, who are we to tell someone how to create their art? Especially when we know that's what they see.
Exactly. No one's telling who how to, but to be accountable, knowing that if you create this is what happens to you. And that's the difference. Because when you talk about Reasonable Doubt, there is no song on Reasonable Doubt where Jay-Z is actually calling out violence to someone else. He's telling his reality of his story through a lot of metaphors and also a lot of
on what he would do. He would do too.
Right, but there is a difference. And I'm not even trying to place one higher than the other. I'm just saying that. That's why there's a lot of people that we've lost in hip hop and lost in music because of what they were putting out there. So therefore, especially in the capacity that I engage with this community, I'm not just going to look at that and say, oh, that's your reality. That's fine. Keep making music talking about how you want to kill this person's mother. And then 5 days down the line, the person finds you and kills you. I'm not going to say that's okay because that's your reality. But, is that what we should say?
But what if that is the reality that's helping him escape that reality?
But that's why we need to find other tools to help them, because this is a mental issue.
And it's also
a mental health issue.
And also, I think very importantly as well, there are two things one thing you mentioned earlier that we've not even touched, which I think is one that needs to be even more accountable, which is the social drug use.
Oh, we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
And we just piecing it by piece, because now we're still on the drill music aspect.
And also, as much as it's a mental issue, this is a hugely social issue.
Of course it is.
An economical issue.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and this is where I have that issue with telling that person to stop. No. Let me finish. It's like, or asking that person to stop his narrative, which is helping him escape his reality. To me, and not having anything to support his reality, if he stops that, to me, it's like an oxymoron.
Exactly, you know what I mean? Of course. So, but you're jumping the gun because you're talking about not giving them things to support that. What's the reason why?
But the people and most of the people that are spewing this narrative are saying it's drill me.
But we've already accepted that's not what we're talking about. We've accepted that is a white smoke. That is a scapegoat mentality. They are trying to be seen to be clamping down on something that is seemingly an epidemic. That is a wrong outlook, and we know the reason behind that. So blaming drill music for the situation is absolutely wrong. But as a caveat to that, we as a society, we as people need to also be challenging the narratives behind this and people taking accountability for what is also happening within this music and within the reason why these are, we cannot disassociate that from the crimes and the killings. You cannot completely remove that. But that's not the reason
that isn't
for the crime.
So for me, that's where that's where my uneasiness comes in, right? Because anything that is dealing with the surface, I always feel a little bit uneasy. I'm not saying, and once again, because everything that you said, you're completely right? You're completely right. There is a correlation between the drill music and the violence. There is, because even if it's not provable, the energy and everything, you cannot deny that, right? But on the flip side, what is causing it? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and that's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying we need to focus on that, which is why I highlight elements about the mental well-being of some of these young people. That's to me that's the reasoning, not the drill music. But if we focus on that, the content of the drill music will be different.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Now, I completely agree with you on that.
Right.
I completely agree with you on
because
that.
when we look at one of both our favorite artists, Scarface talks about some of the darkest
guys,
things that could ever happen in society.
Guys, if you've not heard Scarface, go check him out.
One of the reasons why I love Scarface is he tells you every side of it.
Yeah.
He just literally tells you a story of what's happening, why he's feeling that way, and why these are the things that he had done. And actually, in some cases, the remorse that comes from it. He tells you a complete story. That's what great art is.
His man bleeding on the sidewalk.
Exactly.
And how that makes him feel.
Exactly. And that's why it was such a beautiful bodies of work that he's created all through his career. And that's why he's revered by so many over the years. But that's what is missing. Because this is only one narrative. Yeah. You're not hearing the pain. I mean, we could hear the indirect pain. You can hear the indirect but we're not hearing the sadness. We're not hearing, oh, my mom got stabbed when obvious. This happened to me. My mom got shot because they were trying to look for me. None of that. It's all this bravado of what they're trying to project to you to instill fear in you so that you don't come for them. And it becomes a cycle. And therefore, it's just about who gets who first. And that has to also be challenged. So therefore, the conversation is about what are the solutions? Because we know that this idea of targeting drill music is not a solution. That's a scapegoat mentality. And that's not trying to get to the bottom of it. And that's something that, I've been having conversations with people that I know and also within my field about, what could be done? What can I do? What can we do individually to try and work on this? And there's so many amazing people and groups of people that are doing a lot of work on the ground with these groups of people. And obviously, I'll talk a little bit about, a project that I'm going to be, working on. But there's definitely mental issues. But then to step into the social drug use element, I think it's a very interesting one because I know a lot of people that on a night out, they'll buy a bag of this. Or before they go out, they'll get their weed supplier to come to the house and drop them a couple of, drawers. And then I think, so you're going to enjoy and smoke that. And then next day,
where do you think that weed guy goes?
And then next day you say to me, oh, look at all these kids killing themselves. And one part of your brain does not make the connection.
Of course it doesn't.
I just
smoking weed in the first place.
Exactly. I just bought 50 pound worth of weed for the weekend. Me and my mates just gonna have a good time.
A laugh.
But not realize that this is
that
the
comes
same
from somewhere.
Industry that creates the same conditions that bring about these killings. Because a lot of people want to be, self-righteous in so many different ways, but don't think about some of the things that they do.
The actions, where the action leads.
And do you think the person that's selling weed to you, one, that's the only thing that they sell?
You're the only customer they got.
Right? And do you think they make that in their own house? Do you not think that person also gets his own supply from a big person? And then in that person's sort of web of dealings, you don't think they're the same people that have guns? You don't think they're the same people that have to protect their merchandise
and
when
their
people try and rob them? So you don't make that connection to realize, I'm just smoking a little bit of weed. Like if you're growing your own weed, that's a separate conversation entirely. But if you're investing in an industry that you don't want
live
to
in a bubble. They don't live in a vacuum.
Exactly. So making this connection with people that, and also there's this idea of separation of classes in drug use, because there's a lot of people that, I only buy cocaine or buy, white and all these other drugs. And in those cases, there's a higher level that's associated with that type of drug because it's not someone who just, of course, in some cases, it's like a little kid that drops it off to you. But in some cases, it's like a much more bigger infrastructure. Someone comes through, brings you.
Apparently they got like apps now that you could literally.
Do you know what I mean? And then again, you don't make the connection because again, the way the society looks at those types of drugs in comparison, and we know the reasons why. Because of the economic benefits with that industry of drug trade, the cocaine, the opium, all that type of drug trade, and where that comes from and the powers that are behind that.
A quick question, right? before you go on, do you think if you caught as a user, would you think it would be beneficial if you were sentenced the same amount of time as the person dealing?
I think that's an interesting. That would be really great if that was the case. I mean, we know there's a lot of people, a lot of famous people that have been caught with
some copious amount of drugs, almost like a dealer,
but the elitist kind.
Yeah, so
you know,
like, oh yeah, they're using
exactly.
They take him.
I mean, how many
rehab.
times do we know? I mean, Kate Moss had a drug addiction problem.
Yeah.
So did Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
They never got incarcerated for nothing. But I know little kids that I work with that have been to pen for weed supply.
Yeah.
You know?
I know the crazy thing, it's that vicious cycle.
Exactly.
Without the user, there is no, what you call a supplier.
Exactly.
So when the supplier goes away, another supplier is going to rear itself because the user is told that constant.
Exactly. So it's about people realizing that when we talk about youth violence, it doesn't exist in a vacuum.
That's it.
So people now using drill as a blame game, we need to step away from that smoke and realize that there's other issues around that, and social drug use is one of those, and also a lot of these other kind of lack of opportunities that exist within these demographics are things that we collectively need to be thinking of how to tackle that. You know, and that's why for me, you know, one of the big things about, you know, the art that I create is about looking at the mental element of it. And that's why you see my project Smile is about working specifically in this particular pilot that I'm working on.
Guys, if you've not checked out, you need to check out his old project.
Yeah.
What's the old project? What's it called?
It's Smile. So it's called Send Me Inspiring Love and Energy. And there's a particular pilot that I'm working on, which I got funded by the Welcome Collection, which is a huge organization that work with arts that has health benefits. So I'm going to be working with 50 young Black boys, particularly. So anyone that has any young Black boys in the community that think, you know what, might benefit from kind of working on this, jumping on this program, please hit me up or hit us up. So I'm working with 50 young Black boys that have a direct, they live in environments that have direct access and connection to all of the youth violence that happens, and there is a propensity for them to get involved in violence.
Yeah.
So I'll be working with them
for
a 6-month period.
It's a reality.
A huge part of the project is undergoing research about how mental health affects the happiness levels, right? Because if we're happy as human beings, there's less likelihood for us to engage in things that bring about harm to other people, right? So using that premise to understand that what are the conditions that these young people are living in that's making them unhappy, right? And then understanding how to then boost the happiness through a lot of research, but also working with these young people for a sustained period of time, 6 months, really trying to get them to introspect about what are the reasons why these are things that are natural to me to express myself using this ways of expression, either violence or other means that are not productive to themselves. Through that, they use creative arts because that's a tool that I have as a facilitator to work with young people to use photography and poetry to interrogate their own self as to why they're expressing themselves. So understanding the levels of happiness and how to use other things to navigate their happiness levels. Because when that changes, then their propensity towards violence would change. You know, and it's about trying to understand the other factors that influence their happiness levels. And then try to figure out, okay, now that you know these are the things that affect your happiness, now you have the power to figure out how to change those things. Of course, it's not that easy because a lot of these things are things that are outside of their physical control.
But when you know, at least you now have a
knowledge is
that
power.
you can chase.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things that I think is so important in terms of trying to find alternative ways to deal with the issue, as opposed to just point fingers, because drill is not the problem.
It's just a symptom.
Exactly.
It's still a worrying symptom.
Exactly.
Underlining it all, there is a huge systematic problem that we need to be looking at.
Exactly. So that's where we are with that. And I just think, you know, we just need to interrogate ourselves more in terms of thinking of what things do we invest in that also trickle down.
And that's very, very important.
You know,
because sometimes we're so far removed from the core issue, we seem to forget that a lot of our actions actually is trickles down
Exactly.
directly
Exactly.
to those into those actions. So when we go, oh, I can't believe in all this violence, but yet, like you said, on the weekend you're buying a bag of weed. Where do you think that weed seller come from?
Exactly.
They don't come from a bubble. They're not in a vacuum that you just order and they just materializes
And the
it goes
interesting
away.
thing is, you know, I've been in people's houses where they've, you know, smoked weed and they've had a dealer come and drop it for them. And I've looked at the young boy and I've just thought, this is the kind of young people that I work with.
Yeah.
And I know that these are young people. Like sometimes I've had to walk out with the young person and just
have a
you
little
know,
chat with
and
him.
he said, well, you want to buy weed or not? I'm just like, no, I'm just trying to talk to you,
that
bro.
you actually want to talk to
Do you
him.
know what I
like,
mean? And the interesting thing is they're the same people that say, oh, you know, young black boys in the hood, you know, oh,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
they're very dangerous. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
but you just had this guy come into your house and deliver you weed.
And you know they'll go, oh, but my weed guy is very nice.
Exactly. You know what I mean? That's what exactly it is. This idea of selective dissonance, of removing yourself from situations when it pleases you.
Yeah.
You know, and those are things that I just really struggle with. And I think there's a lot of people that don't make that connection. You know, they want to be happy with that weed guy who's nice.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden...
He's only nice because you're paying him.
Exactly. All of a sudden, they're walking out on the street and saying, oh, those are the kind of boys I saw on the paper the other day that are shooting and killing themselves.
Yeah.
But you're not making a connection,
Yeah.
you know? So that's just really something that has just really been just hot on my agenda in terms of just trying to tackle that.
Yeah.
And just create a conversation around understanding the nuances within that conversation.
It's never a simple
You
issue,
know?
is it? It's a tough one.
So yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's a tough one. I think as a society, we just need to love ourselves a little bit more. And you're definitely right. It starts with you've got to appreciate ourselves. We got to love ourselves, because if you appreciate yourself, you tend to appreciate others.
Yep.
If you have a love for your life, then you automatically have love for other lives as
Absolutely.
well. If you've got no regard for yours, you're definitely not going to have any regard for anyone else's life as well.
Exactly.